Well, Family ID, thanks for joining me today. I have a special honor to sit with Phil Nicaud. He is a leader among leaders. He's a military veteran. He is a father and a husband that leads with intentional direction. You are going to be thrilled to hear his story of growing up and how he came to be where he is. But he's a godly man and a man I respect and want to honor today and share his wisdom with you this week. So, Phil, thanks for joining us today. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. Hey, it's cool down here in New Orleans, Louisiana, so I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Is that unusual for it to be cool on the second day of November?
I'd say so. I mean, it's this is about the fall time, but I mean, I tell you, we only have really two seasons, either hot or cold. We don't have like the whole four seasons like the rest of you folks in Oklahoma and Colorado and the Midwest. We have two seasons, hot or cold.
I love it. Well, did you, okay, catch us up, Phil, from growing up in Southern Louisiana to today. Tell me about, we're all about families. So tell me about your family growing up and then your family today with you and Elisa and your kiddos.
Sure thing. I was born 1975, 46 years old in New Orleans, Louisiana. And my dad was a New Orleans policeman. My mom was a teacher. So, and we're a family of seven. We had five kids and very prolific. My dad is one of nine. In fact, I just got done speaking at the 4G3 conference in Atlanta. And I told the whole story. Our family was, on my mama's side, Cajun and Italian. And then on my dad's side, we are French, Italian, and Lebanese. And so my great-grandmother, who came from Lebanon, married my great-grandfather, who's from Italy. And they had one child, Esther Rose, who I named my daughter after, one of them.
Okay.
And she had nine kids. And my father was one of those nine. And so we grew up, and my dad, he ended up playing a leadership role in a pretty big event that happened in New Orleans, 1979. After that, he ended up leaving the police department, and my uncle Roy Nicaud put him in the seafood business. And Roy's from Bayou La Battery, Alabama, or he was living in that Mobile, Bayou La Battery area. And so my dad got in the seafood business when we were younger. And so our whole childhood, we worked in the seafood business. I worked farms in Bogalusa, Louisiana. And of course, all of us were athletes. We all got into sports. Yep. My dad was an athlete. And so, and we had, again, five kids. I have four boys, one girl in the Nicaud family. And we grew up on the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain in a town called Covington, Louisiana. It was a cool upbringing back then, and again, right. Big family, lots of love, lots of life, not a lot of money.
Lots of hard work, right?
That's right.
So how did that lead into your family today on you and Elisa? Tell me about you guys and your family.
Well, so 1993, I joined the United States Marine Corps. I went to infantry school in California, then flew after infantry school to Chesapeake, Virginia, to the Security Force Training Battalion. And in there, I got selected to take the FAST NDOC, the Fleet Anti-Terrorism Security Team, and took that NDOC and ended up connecting in and serving in the FAST Company, which is it's an anti-terrorism unit located in Norfolk, Virginia. 1996, I walk into a bank to close out, really me and my buddy Steve, our bank accounts and move all of our business to a credit union. They had a cute young girl that came to our barracks, and she said, well, all you Marines need to take your money out of the bank and go to the Navy Federal Credit Union. And so I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am. So we go in there to do that. And I told this girl, Tina, who was the teller, this is what I'm here to do. And she walks in the back, and out walks the closer.
Nice.
The finest woman I'd ever seen in my life. She was a little short and sassy, dark hair, dark skin. I'm like, whoo, man, this girl's beautiful. And she started saying something about, you need to leave your money here. I don't know why you're going. I couldn't even understand what she was saying. I was so like like just stunned by this woman. And I said, I tell you what, not only will I leave my money here, I'll tell all the Marines in my barracks to do that if you do one thing. And she goes, well, what's that, Mr. Nicaud? I said, if you give me your phone number. And so,
there's the closer right there. There's the
yeah,
closer.
you're right. And back then, Derek, all we had was a digital pager. There wasn't no payphone. No cell phones. I had a payphone in the barracks, and she had a landline. So when the girl gave her phone number, she was giving her landline. Okay, this is her home phone. With big cord. So she went back. She said, I don't think I could do that. I need to ask my manager. And I said, well, where's your manager? She said, it's in the back. I said, go ask her. And she went over there, and she pulled her glasses down, and she goes, you need to give that man your number. Y'all would make pretty babies. True story. That happened. And so this year, Derek, in May, we'll celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary. We're going to get married again on the beach in Rosemary, Florida. Can't wait. I'm going to fit in my dress blues. She's going to fit in her wedding dress, and all of our kids. My boys will be my best men. My girls will be the maids of honor. And I just can't wait, man. We're going to renew our vows. So that's the Nicaud family. We have 5 kids. Our boys, Luke is 23 years old. Philip's 21. Olivia is 16. Esther Rose, or Rosie, is 14. And Sophia is 12. So and we also have, or let me just say this, my wife and my kids have a dog named Rue. Okay. And so I don't have that dog. They have that dog. I've accepted the dog because of them, but it's their dog. And so Rue is part of our family too. So it's a family of 8.
I understand. My daughter has a dog named Boaz, and so and it's her dog, and I completely understand. And right. one day we hope to get Ruth for her Boaz. That's what we hope one day. I am sure, Phil, I've never seen a photo of your kids, but I'm sure you and your wife did end up making beautiful babies that have turned out to be successful children and now adults. What are they like? What are your kids like?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, I'll go in through each one of them. Yeah, let me just say this up front. I know your listeners are, family people. They're people with kids, and they're going through all the life, and they're all different, seasons, and some of them are grandparents, and some of them are great-grandparents, and some of them are just moms and dads. But one thing I could tell you is the Nicaud kids, they're all 100% unique. Not one of them is identical. It's not, it's not like we have like 2 that are the same. They all have different personality types. Seriously. So Luke is really more of Luke looks like me. I'll put a picture of our family in the show notes, but Luke is a big guy, got a beard. Look, he's got a big Leonidas beard. Looks like a Viking almost, He's a big, strong, strapping guy, and looks like me, but has almost an identical personality type to my wife. He's actually on the disc, if people understand what that is, the personality profile. Luke is a DC, high DC, low S, low I. Okay. All right, so he's a leader type person, but introverted in nature, energizes away from people, not by people, and very task oriented, competitive, likes to do some sports and things like that. He's studying at ORU, and so anyway, love Luke, definitely the team captain. You know what I mean? And Philip looks kind of like my wife and me. He's definitely Nicaud in his the way he looks, but his personality is more of, on the disc, if anybody studies that, is more of a IDS. So he's competitive in nature, but he's really go with the flow, extroverted, energizes around people. If he's alone for long periods of time, he's like, oh my gosh, it almost dampens his spirit. He likes being around people, and just a great guy. Philip ended up, really excelling at powerlifting like I did growing up, and he became an all-state, all-American, and ended up competing for the USA team in Africa in 2018, won a silver medal. So again, could compete at a high level, but doesn't have to, and is fully engaged in whatever he's doing. And then when he's done, and he's moving to the next thing. So I just love that about my sons. Both of them are, love adventure, love hanging out with Dad on the back porch, and so that's the boys. The girls, Olivia's 16. She's the diva. So Now, Olivia's personality is almost identical to mine, and she looks Nico. But if you looked at my daughter, you would say, "God, you look just like your mother," until you saw us together, and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you look like your daddy." But she's right in the middle of it, all of it, and she's got this big, vibrant personality, loaded with gifts. Not fair. And I mean, she can sing, she can dance. She's just got a big, brilliant personality.
She's good at everything, right? She's just good at everything.
And she's just good at everything. Yeah, it's just all that. But again, has her own struggles. You know what I mean, with certain things. And I don't want to get too heavy into that. I'm going to be very raw and authentic on this call, but with myself and my story. But so she's just like, look, all these people listening. I know you have kids, and your kids. We're really into our kids. Otherwise, we wouldn't be listening to this podcast and wouldn't be connected with Family ID Ministry. However, we got to be real, man. Everybody's going through these different things. And she's 16. And so, anyway, lots going on in Olivia land, And then Rosie is like a little cuddle bug. I mean, still like a sweet little spirit. Surprisingly, she's really more, if I'd have to say Rosie would be a SC. SCI, low D on the floor, not going to assert, not going to go and challenge, very, very smart. Again, all the book smart got into Luke and Rosie. And so she's my little precious cuddle bug. And then Fifi is sporty spice. Looks like an eco, acts like an eco, just everything. I mean, just come out that way. You know what I mean? I think that she loves being around people, but she energizes alone. She's a lot like Luke in that regard. So the bookends are very much alike.
Okay.
And they look alike. And they got a little special bond. I don't know if that's the case for some big families, but for ours, the oldest and the youngest, they just have this little special bond. And
I think so. I've got friends that have big families, 5 or 6 kids, and they do say that the oldest and the youngest connect. The oldest looks out for the youngest, or the youngest cuddles up to or follows around the oldest and idolizes them to some extent, and looks up to them and honors them.
Yeah. Well, normally I don't go that deep into my family, but this is a Family ID podcast, so I'm sure your listeners can relate to some of this, and they can relate to the fact that they're all different. And by the way, our parenting styles, we've had to adjust them for each one of these kids. They're just all so uniquely different. Sure. Even where they went to school, we changed that up a little bit.
Okay.
One school was not right for all of them. And so we've had, it's been, I'll tell you, the biggest revelation for me as a father, and Elise as a mother, both of us would agree that you can't parent all your kids the same.
Right. And
everything in me as a Marine wants to do everything the same, treat them the same, do all that. And it's just not right. They're all so uniquely different. They learn differently. It would squash some. It would elevate others. And so we've had to kind of flex on that. It's been a big revelation for us.
I think that will resonate with a lot of families out there, because I often wonder, hey, if you had 100 kids, would you have 100 different personalities? And I believe you would. I think they would all be unique, and every approach would be different. And I think that will resonate with families, Phil. So thanks for diving in there. So you and Elisa have been together almost 25 years. From the beginning, or where you are now, what would you say the Nicaud family is all about? What would you say you're all about?
Yeah, I guess, growing up in South Louisiana, all of us have this little touch of hospitality on us. We love, passing a good time, like we say down here. We got a saying down here, laissez bon temps rouler, like let the good times roll, And so I think that if people would talk about the Nicaud family, they would say, oh yeah, no, that's a fun family, big personalities, they love to cook. The way that I would define it is fat bellies and smiles. You know what I mean? That's what I want to do. When anybody comes over, I want them to feel like, I want them to hold their gut from 2 things. Number 1, eating good food. Number 2, laughing. So I think that kind of defines our family. All of them would agree. We used to, when they were younger, we would kind of force them to serve, and so service and leadership and connecting in, and all these things. These are all part of our values. In fact, there's a picture in the show notes of me holding my family ID values. When the boys were little, we went through that whole workshop with Greg. We flew him in, and so. But as they've gotten older, we're gonna go through this whole workshop again. I had you and Greg come and speak to our CEO forum this year, and next year we're going to actually do a workshop. Well, our daughters are older now, so what's happening is our values aren't changing, but I want them to have more say, and they're unique. They're in different seasons of life. They're more of like they can understand exactly what they're saying and committing to. So I think hospitality, serving, leadership, passing a good time, that's really what we're all about.
Yeah, the hospitality and the full bellies, that has to be the Italian coming out in you, Phil, because my wife is Italian, and we never leave the house without snacks. We never, if anybody comes over, they are not leaving until they eat a meal or food or they are well taken care of. That's got to be the Italian in you coming out.
It's both. I mean, Cajun culture and Italian culture, it's not too much different. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that. Okay, so besides leadership and serving in your family, you personally, Phil, you're a leader of leaders. You invest your time and wisdom with high impact individuals from around the country, pour into them, mentor them, lead them, help to make them better. Tell me about that. How did that get started? How did you know that's what God wanted you to do personally?
That's great. No, I'll get into that. So I want to start by saying this, that, Jesus said that the greatest among us is the servant of all, right? That was the Phil Nicaud paraphrase version, right? But the greatest among us is the servant of all. So you start to talk about leaders of leaders. These are people that take the time to serve at a greater degree than a normal person, right? That's how I view leadership as serving. And I want to speak to the dads real quick about this, and I'm going to get into how I got into this business. But, for a father in today's age, and let me just speak about this in an American context. For a father in today's age, to be engaged with his kids, sold out for Jesus, sold out for his wife, but not lose his personality, to really be a unique prism for the Lord to shine his light through, and to really be engaged at even serving people within his workplace, serving people within the marketplace, serving in his local church, right? For a man, a father, to be in that level of engagement, it takes courage, and it takes them to be really a servant. So each person listening here qualifies to that leader of leader, badge that you put on me when you first introduced me, right? So I just want each one of these fathers to know. For a mother, I think that they qualify even more the minute they give birth. It's like, Lord have mercy. We wouldn't do that, men. That's true. There's no way. I can't tell you how many times I said, thank God I'm not a woman. Because y'all go through, just what's required of you to give birth, to all the monthly, every month, all that. It's just so much. But God bless you women. Y'all are leaders of leaders. Mm-hmm. John F. Kennedy's mother, Ruth, used to pray over their crib and declare, you'll be in the White House one day. They're leaders of leaders. Every time that they go and sacrifice. Let me tell you, my wife is 40. She's my age, and she's now getting her master's degree at Regent University, and she's coming back into the business community. Okay. And it's expressing itself through ministry and business. She's the founder of Flourishing Today, which is a really popular Christian women's blog, and then she's also the chief administrative officer of Legendary. Okay. And so she's come back in. But for 25 years, she has served our children. Right. Leader of leaders. That's right. So I'll tell you about Legendary real quick. I I got out the Marine Corps in 1997. We immediately opened up a restaurant called Naturally New Orleans. I went straight into business, okay? And so grew up in the seafood business. I used to go in these restaurants, and I'd see these people, they'd have a wad of cash in their pocket, but they'd always be grumpy as heck. You know what I mean? Like, every time you go in there, they'd be mean to you, but boy, they'd always have a big load of cash. Because I didn't know the Lord back then. I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do. Look at all that cash, you know? And so I go in and take the bait. And my wife, it actually was her idea to go into a restaurant business. So we go into the restaurant business, and we're doing that, and man, we almost got divorced. So I mean, my wife, we were 23 years old, and she said, "Look, it's either us or the business." Now, a week prior to that great ultimatum, I had a lady whose husband had died. She was a widow, and she owned a ton of property on Virginia Beach Boulevard, all over the beach, and she was like, "Look, I'm going to take these Naturally New Orleans restaurants and blah, blah, blah. I'll pay for the whole thing. You just give me X percent, and when we sell, you pay me back. Other than that, you don't pay me anything." So my dream was funded, and then I get the great ultimatum from my wife.
Yep.
And I went in the back, and I was like, I'm just going to go forward. Elisa's just having a bad day. You know what I mean? Like, this is not good. I'm doing this for them. That's what we always say, man. I'm doing this for you and the kids. And so anyway, I said, I'm going to go forward. And in my head, now I was not a believer at this time, but I heard my dad talking with his accent. And he said, if you keep this up, you're going to lose your family, son. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Derek, all that special operations, Marine Corps ambition that I was transferring into business and life, it all leaked out at that moment. It was just a candle on a hot day. It just leaked out. And I remember just packing my stuff. I put my keys on my landlord's desk. I wrote him a check for the rest of the rent that we owed. And I said, I'm out. I'm not going to renew my lease. I'm out. And he thought I was crazy and all that. And then I swore I would never put my business above my family.
Okay.
And then I did it consistently for 15 years. I kept doing it over and over and over again. By the way, I ended up coming into relationship with God through Jesus Christ. I had a wonderful relationship with God. I mean, my whole life changed. Everything. 2004. I did it even in the kingdom.
Yep.
I kept on doing it.
Yep.
Was there power to change me? Yeah. But I didn't have a system. And my pastor, who was a friend of mine at the time, he was my pastor. I knew him because he preached on the weekends, but we hunted together. We were in a hunting camp together. So I got close with my pastor. And he said, Phil, if you keep this pace up, man, you could burn out. I know, I almost did. And so he's like, dude, you can't keep running like this. You're addicted to adrenaline. You're out there, you're achieving, you're accomplishing. But hey, look, there's a pace. There's a rhythm. And he says, you need to go see my friend, Daniel Harkavy, who helped me with this. Daniel Harkavy is the founder of Building Champions, and I went out to an event on the West Coast. They sat me right in the front, and he comes off the stage, shakes my hand, and he says, Daniel Harkavy. I said, Phil Nicaud. He says, Steve Robinson sent you. I said, yes. And he said, do you have dinner plans tonight? I said, no. He came to dinner. He's become a friend and mentor. In fact, he endorsed our book, Our Secret Life, which I'll have for all your listeners. And so from there, I started getting coached. And it made such a profound impact on me, I decided to do it professionally 3 years later. And in those 3 years, what happened is I had given up, Derek, on the idea that you can have success at home and at work. Mm-hmm. I had given up on that idea. I thought you could only have it in one or the other. Mm-hmm. And I'd had it in at home and then slipped at work and slipped at home. And then there's a third one. How about yourself? You forget who you are as a dad.
Right.
Dads,
right.
Moms, I'm speaking to y'all. I mean, I know what it's like. We got 5 kids. I know what it's like to go on the 25-year journey. By the way, for my divorced parents, right? and God's healed you. He's put you back together, and now he's blending you. It's something great and special. But some of my friends who have gotten divorced, it's like y'all get a week off every other week. Now I know there's a lot of trauma that comes along with that, but it's like 25 years, you know? So I know what it's like. I know how it feels, and I know that you can lose hope in the fact that you can gain equity in both your personal and professional life. And so this gave me great hope, gave me a system, and I started to see it. And my wife started to see it, more importantly. And so anyway, I ended up starting a business in 2014. And 6 months after I started it, my father died suddenly of a heart attack. And so, but, you know, there was something very special and redemptive in that process, in that we found a letter that he wrote to his 5 children to be read at his death. And we found it the day before his funeral. And that letter was written 33 years prior. It was sealed. And so, Derek, we read that letter. I've read it to thousands and thousands of people all over, not just America, but in South Africa and in India. And it's something very, very special. So my dad's in my business. My wife is in my business. Mm-hmm. You know, our children are in our business. And it's a blessing. You know, I know that you want to take a break in just a moment and continue on with our questions, but I wanted to tell your listeners, if you guys can find vocationally or in ministry, the great trifecta, right? Impact, income, and fulfillment.
Yep.
It really is something special. Well, 2014, it all intersected, and I get to do this and serve leaders, and it's a blessing. There's impact, there's income to fuel the organization, and then there's fulfillment in all that we're doing. So.
Dude, okay, so there's so much to unpack there. Okay, first, I feel like we could continue on this conversation for a long time just because of how power-packed that was, Phil. Just starting with leader of leaders, and the greatest leader is the one that wants to serve the most. And I appreciate you speaking to the moms out there, because they really do have a life of service. I mean, It is a life of nonstop serving, serving their kids and serving their families. And I'm so thankful that you recognized that. And then 2, I am thankful, Phil, that you had a dad that was engaged in your life. And maybe it's on the fishing boat that you guys were out there all the time, or working on the farm, the fact that he would say, if you keep this up, you're going to lose your family. Just that you know your dad well enough that he would say that, and that he knows you well enough that he could speak that into your life. That in itself is a significant blessing in your life from what sounds like an early age that carried on for time and time.
That's true. You know, my dad, Big Phil Nicaud, if he wanted your opinion, he'd give it to you. That was my dad, you know. And so Dad taught us a work ethic. He was extremely loyal. You know, if somebody was loyal to him, he was just loyal for the rest of their life. He would have taken a bullet for more things than most people.
Yep.
He was really, didn't really care about his life, you know, over that. And my dad made all of our games. He coached us as young kids in football. And so Dad taught us some great lessons about a work ethic, Dad would pick up underprivileged kids, and we'd all pile in the back of the truck on the way to practice. Of course, we were kind of underprivileged. We didn't have any money growing up. You know what I mean? Yeah. We would drive shrimp trucks to football practice and smell like seafood or bleach, one or the other. You know what I mean? And some of the kids from Covington will remember that are my age. And then, of course, my mother is really. And I want to tell your listeners this, that I was born into a family where we are loaded with female leaders. My grandmother was a teaching nurse at Charity Hospital. She had 4 daughters, and they're all nurses. They're all leaders. You know, they got medical degrees, but they're also, you know, leaders. They all serve their kids, their families, but also in the community. On my mother's side, my mother started something called, she was the religion department head at St. Scholastica, St. Peter's, where we went to school, then St. Scholastica, then started Alpha House. I mean, she has raised one of my nephews. I mean, my mother is the epitome of a servant leader. and she's a Montessori educator. She loves those children. She's been doing that for 25 years. And so I'm surrounded by female leaders, but I also have some strong male leadership. So I have that equal respect for both. And I'm going to tell you, the biggest thing that I think that moms and dads really accept, the lie that they accept is, golly, this is just, another day, and then I'm not really making this big difference. And the truth is, your children will be in their 30s and 40s, and they'll be recalling back that one Sunday when you did this, the Saturday when you did that. Each time you make a commitment to their game, to their practice, to taking them to a parent-teen adventure ranch, to going on that date night, to doing this, they're going to remember that. But it's really, they amplify everything we do, good and bad. They amplify. Our children amplify all the good and the bad. And of course they got the relationship with God that'll come into their lives and change them like they did with me. I was a wreck, but that I just want to encourage your listeners. It really is. It's the most difficult and challenging job out there to raise a family, especially in today's age. But it's the most rewarding, and it's really what God's heart is after.
It is.
Right?
It is. It's funny. I've got a little calendar that I flip every day, and it's got a dad saying on it. And a couple of weeks ago, it said, "The days you waste with your kids are the ones they will remember the most." And isn't that the truth? The days that you just, hey, I remember when we ran around and did nothing all day long. I remember the time that we sat in the backyard in the hammocks on a Sunday afternoon for 2 or 3 hours. Those are the ones that they remember, that stick out, because they might not value the scheduled activities, but you know what they do value? Relationship with you. They value relationship with you, and the days that you waste are relationship building times.
That's so good. Hey, I have two memories that stuck out as you said that. It's interesting. This is the first time that I've actually seen this, but I have two memories that are phenomenal memories of my father and my grandfather Emmett, his dad. My grandfather Emmett, I was laying on his chest on the hammock in the yard. I distinctly remember that. The environment, the smell, the whole 9 yards. And then my father was taking my mother on a date when we were little. And I was laying on his chest as a little boy. I remember the color of his shirt, the cologne he wore, his mustache scratching my neck. I mean, I remember all of it. It's interesting. You're so right, Derek. These moments that we think are nothing, God puts his stamp on it. And downstream, they really mark us. And so that's a great point.
They do. Another thing you mentioned, Phil, is that we feel like as parents and as, I guess, servants and workers, that we feel like we can only have success in either work or our family. And I've heard Greg talk about it so often, that especially as men looking for success in the business world, Jesus talks about leaving the 99 and going after the one, while we, as sinful and broken people, we want to chase after the 99 because we feel like there's so much opportunity there. There's so much to be gained. There's so much, we see the potential with the 99, and we leave the one, and the one is our family. And so you talked about for 15 years continuing to pursue work instead of not pouring into, but really maximizing family. And I love the trifecta that you introduced, because if we can have impact, income, and fulfillment, then gosh, what else could we want? Right.
But people do it all the time. They get locked up in these businesses. Either they start a business, buy a business, get a job, and they buy into this amazing future that whoever that leader is painting for them, and it just doesn't fulfill them. There's no impact. There's only income. So what they do is they say, well, I'll make as much income as I can so I could transfer that to the personal, so I could have some impact and fulfillment. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And look, I just want to tell you, you only got one life to live. Derek and I started off this podcast talking about a very, very dear friend of mine. It choked me up just thinking about it. This man really poured his life into me for 5 years as a young believer. I was 30 years old when I met Tim. He was 50, and his wife Jan was a mother to my wife. And he was walking down the street in Covington, Louisiana, got hit by a truck while he was walking. He's in the hospital right now, and he's declining. And they're saying that the doctors are saying he may not make it. And so as I'm driving over here to do this podcast, that hits me. And Tim's young; he's 66 years old. He's my father was 64. You know, none of us are promised tomorrow. You got one life to live, but you know, that's all it takes if you live it well.
That's it. That's all.
And so what I would say is, if you don't have that impact, that income, and that fulfillment, just go before the Lord. Listen, there's a special love that He has for you. The Bible says, "Cast your cares upon Jesus, because He cares for you." And just, you can bring this. You can seek. You can knock. You can ask. You know, you can ask anything, and he hears you. So what I'm saying is, if you don't have that, find it, because it really does light something up on the inside of you, and it allows you to have the freedom to connect with your family and engage in a way that I know you and Greg talk about and have helped our family engage.
So unpack that a little bit. At Legendary, you help men and women come into and create, as you mentioned previously, systems around having impact, income, and fulfillment, and maybe unlocking where they feel handcuffed, or really opening their eyes as to how they can have that impact as well as the income that they've already created. Can you give us just a sneak peek or a taste of kind of what you walk those individuals through at your organization?
Yeah, thank you, Derek. The way we like to say it at Legendary is we like to enhance or maximize your life, leadership, and legacy.
Okay.
And so the best way to do that is to go through our programs. So we have a one-on-one life plan retreat, and in there you create a 27-page master plan, personal professional master plan. It's an off-site. It's one-on-one. Some CEOs, we serve, by the way, at Legendary, founders, CEOs, executive leaders, entrepreneurs, anybody who is married with kids and has a business, or you don't have to be married with kids, but that's when the real stress and pressure hits, and it drives them to an executive coach. It drives them to a management consultant or a chief strategist. And so these are the people that we serve all over America and their teams. So we're an organizational consulting firm, or management consulting firm. And so we do everything from organizational consulting, strategic planning, leadership development, team building, board governance, offsite retreats, compensation plans, all the things you would need as a business owner to run your team efficiently. But we also have a personal, professional, executive coaching line, and that's where we would do that one-on-one life plan retreat. Actually, we pack that into the events and then the speaking and training. And so the one way that people can come in and really get the revelation that I had with Daniel Harkavy is they can come to our one-on-one life plan retreats. They can book that, or they can come to our event. Every year we do a flagship event, the Legendary Leadership Experience, L2X 2021. This year is going to be in Covington, Louisiana. We bought the Southern Hotel. It's December 14th through the 16th. You come in at 4 p.m. on the 14th, you work on the 15th, and on the 16th you're done at noon. It's a 5-day, 4-night event I've crunched into 2 days and 2 nights.
Okay,
and it's efficient. It's powerful, and you create this 27-page master plan, and I'll give you 4 hours of broken up solo time. Very few conferences give you solo time where you can go by yourself and really hear from God and write down and envision all of 22 and beyond, and that's what we do. That gives people the clarity, focus, and intentionality that they need to maximize their life, leadership, and legacy. So that's another way that you can engage in our process. And so we have that, and then we have these forums called the Legendary Forum. About 3 years ago, God started speaking to me about putting together a peer advisory group. We meet once a month for a full day, and we have two groups of 12, and so those guys in 22 we'll have three groups of 12, and we all get together for on this journey, availing ourselves to the highest thought leaders in America in the areas that matter most to us: faith, marriage, parenting, mental, emotional, physical fitness, leadership, strategy, culture, heritage, all these topics that matter, to us, the inner man, it's just all these things that matter. And so we either fly them in or we Zoom them in, and we sit down and take away our lessons learned, and then we commit to doing something, and then we have some accountability the next time. And that group's taking off. Those are really powerful groups, and all of it, as you can see, is designed to help maximize a leader's life, leadership, and legacy.
Right, absolutely. I sure do. What's the most rewarding part of that, Phil? Of walking people through that? What's the most rewarding part? What do you love about it?
Well, I hate to just encapsulate it with one word, but if I had to, I would just say breakthrough.
Okay.
Breakthrough. At the end of the day, there is a desire on the inside of every person, every leader. And that desire is it's this like picture of a preferable future. It's why people follow you. Mm-hmm. It's why people are in your tribe. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a community, you're just a commodity. And so especially in today's social media day and age, so all these people are engaged with you because they're like, man, this person is positive, upbeat, and they got an expectation for a positive future. But there's a reality of their present and current state, and there's a gap that emerges. And what happens is, especially for leaders who are carrying people from point A to point B, or their families, they're always aware of the gap. They're always aware of this gap, and they can get extremely critical. Most leaders I know are more critical of themselves than anybody else around them. And so what happens is frustration, just irritation, it all sets in, and it drives them to Legendary. And we're able to identify the gap, identify where they want to go, give an honest assessment of where they are.
Yep.
The gap emerges, and we figure out little strategies to break them through in their faith, in their marriage, in their physical fitness, their mental, emotional state. They're like, every time I walk in a room, I blow up. I blow the whole meeting up. I do this. Well, what's going on in there? Okay, so we address these things, right? Every time I attract a leader, I lose them within three years. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. We address all this. And so those breakthrough moments are what I was born to do. I didn't tell you this, but in the Marine Corps, I'll distinctly remember I went into Haiti in 1994, 1995, and I was separated from my platoon, and I was assigned to an Army colonel as his personal protection. Okay, and so at the time, Somalia had just ended, and the Gulf War, and the branches couldn't speak to one another, so we did a lot of joint operations. Okay. And so they had us with a Navy guy, an Army guy, a Coastie. We had all of us Air Force guys. We all served together on a special detail that personally protected the colonel and the command sergeant major. And when I came to know the Lord, and I started to really go on a search to discover my purpose, I remembered that moment in Haiti, and I was like, I know why I was born. Derek, they say that the two greatest moments in a person's life is that, number one, the day they're born, and number two, the day that they discover why they were born.
Yep.
And mine is to protect the king, to protect the queen. And so I'm Lancelot. I'm not King Arthur. And I love being Lancelot. Yeah. So that's just my role. And so Legendary has been, in fact, the name comes for a little bit from that Arthurian legend, but it's all really designed to circle the wagons around a leader and help them to maximize their highest potential.
Because that does protect them. Helping them maximize and be the best them that they can be protects them and their legacy that they're leaving, right? That is what it is. I get it. Okay, so as we land this plane, you have given us nuggets of wisdom. You've given us insight to the life of Phil Nicaud and your family. But if you had to give maybe one small snippet of advice to somebody who is a leader of an organization, and again, a leader doesn't have to be a role. It's more of a mentality. You gave examples of that from your mom and your aunt, and but a leader who wants to get better, who wants to grow, who wants to have maybe a small breakthrough, what's one piece of advice that you would give them coming from your life experience and what you've lived through?
Well, I'm looking it up right now. There's this is what I've been saying lately. It's powerful. It's on me, and I actually texted it to this group called the Heritage Forum that I'm a part of. We have this like lead team text message that we all look into. I think it's Psalm 108. I'll look it up right here. Now look, Derek, I'm getting a little older, man, so I got to kind of like get my glasses on here. But I'll look it up. It's Psalm 108, I believe, and it's just a beautiful depiction of what it illustrates perfectly what I'm talking about. And I just think that leadership, if I show up and with all of the dynamics floating around in our culture today, in the world, we never had the whole world under one major conflict at one time. Typically, it's the whole world looking at New Orleans going, why are those people still living there? These hurricanes, or in Oklahoma, it's like, why do they live in the path of that tornado? But with this pandemic, it's like we've all experienced it all at once, and it's just spun off tremendous pressure and stress. And so what we could do is we could slip as moms, as dads, as business owners, as business leaders, as influencers online, we could slip into the flesh real easy.
Yep.
We could do it. And what happens when I do that, I know the Phil I keep in a cage, he comes out and he's all aggressive, he's all adrenalized, and it's just not fruitful.
Yep.
It never bears fruit. So let me read this. This is in Psalm it's actually Psalm 107 and 27 through 31. Here it is. It talks about these sailors. They went out and plied the trade routes and how the waves picked up and their ships were tossed into the heavens and plunged again to the depths, and the sailors cringed in terror. They reeled and staggered like drunkards and were at their wits' end. Mm-hmm. They were at their wits' end, meaning that their wittiness could not solve the problem at hand. Mm-hmm. They were at the end of their wittiness, their ability to get out of the situation. What a wonderful place to be.
That's right. Only one way to look.
They were at their wits' end. Lord help. They didn't do anything like religious or wild or, oh gosh, let me just pour my heart. They just said, Lord help. Lord help, they cried in their trouble. And he saved them from their distress. He calmed the storm to a whisper and stilled the waves. What a blessing that stillness was as he brought them safely into harbor. Mm-hmm. And I guess if I could say one thing to the moms and dads and to any leader out there, it's just, let's learn to draw from the gentle rain of heaven. Let's learn to open our sail and catch the wind of God. Let's learn to be more rested leaders. Let's learn to be more mindful, prayerful leaders. It is the distinguishing differentiator. This is what makes us different. It is what makes us stand out. Our children get the great benefit. Our grandchildren get the benefit. There's more peace with our employees, with our vendors, with our clients. Mm-hmm. Look, and I've learned to trust God. I had a guy cancel his contract with me yesterday, and this was going to be a big contract. And you know what I've learned to do? Trust God.
Yep.
Trust God. And what it does is it releases peace into my soul,
yep.
And I'm a more rested leader. And there's a stillness and a restedness that comes on a leader that lives their life that way. And it really impacts your family. It enhances your leadership. And also, it'll become part of your heritage and legacy if you let it.
This is fantastic. Phil, how can people connect with you and or Legendary? How can they get in contact with you and or Legendary?
Sure. There's two ways. Number one, you can go to legendaryleadershipconsultants.com or you can go to oursecretlifebook.com.
Okay.
So it's legendaryleadershipconsultants.com or you can go to oursecretlifebook.com.
All right. Well, guys, you've heard it here. This is Phil Nicaud with Legendary Leadership, and his wisdom and insight to share with you, so that you can help lead your organization, your business, your family with intentional direction. Phil, thank you for your time today. What a blessing this is to me, and I know everybody listening. Thank you.
Well, big thanks to you, Derek and Greg. Love you and the Family ID ministry.
Thank you. Thank you.